When asked to pick a hero with regards to my astronomy, I found it even more difficult than if I was asked just to pick a hero of mine. I have a few: Midyur, Hans von Rollbeck, my sons. To try and pick one with such a specific subject, though, is all the more difficult considering there are so many to choose from. Carl Sagan, Sir Patrick Moore, William Herschel, Isaac Newton, of course. There are people who made great strides to allow us to learn more about space. Edwin Hubble, for another one. I would like to pick someone, though, with less notoriety. Let me introduce to you Bill Snyder. Now, Bill would be an unlikely hero for many, not least because he's fairly unknown other than through the internet. However, when I explain why I picked him, I think you'll begin to understand why he's very high on my list of candidates. Now, Bill does a lot of his astrophotography from his home, where he's got an observatory, but he also relies heavily on remote and used telescopes in the mountains of Sierra Nevada. He started his astrophotography in 2007, and I started following his progress in about mid-2010, so only a couple of years after he'd started. Most of his images are produced using a combination of data gathered from different filters, which allow the light emitted at very low wavelengths. These are typically hydrogen alpha, ionised oxygen, ionised sulphur, commonly known as HA, OIII and SII. Subframes captured using these filters are combined to create a lot of the colourful images that you see on his website. Although I'd like to say most of his images are taken through narrowband, he does also do a lot of RGB imaging, which is red, green and blue, the common ones. But his passion seems to be narrowband. It's funny to think that this man, who I've looked and analysed his images for years, I'd never actually seen or contacted him, not even a photograph of what he looked like until I started researching this talk. Now, the reason this guy became so influential to me was quite simply because of his images. I don't know which target I was looking for when I first came across him, but I was looking for a target to see how other people's images came out, and I came across his website. Since starting my own journey into astrophotography, I would look at images from Hubble and other people and use a lot of them as a guide and even a target for me to achieve. If the Hubble telescope was a person, then undoubtedly that would be the hero I'd probably use, as the images from that telescope, more than any other, have been a very large inspiration to me. There is a distinct problem with trying to get images as good as Hubble, though, from my humble kit in my back garden in Porthleven. For starters, I have to deal with the effects of the atmosphere, which it doesn't have to. I don't have $1.5 billion as a budget for my equipment. Even if those two issues weren't there, Hubble images are generally processed by some of the top people in the world. I can't compete. However, even against my insurmountable odds, I've tried my best to, with my limited experience I've gained over the years, to get as close as I can. As you can see here, on the left is Hubble's 25th anniversary image of the Pillars of Creation in the Eagle Nebula, known to most of us as M16. And on the right is my image that I tried to capture using the same method as Hubble, processing in the same way, but with the constraints I have with equipment and much lower exposure times, weather being one issue. However, you can clearly see in the image, as many others I've taken, where my inspiration has come from. It isn't just Hubble and Bill that I do this with. Almost every time I want to capture something, then I will look at what other people have got, I will do some research or work out for myself how they took that image, and then I'll get as close as I can to matching it, or, of course, always trying to better it. For instance, here's an image of Cesar Gonzalez M42. It's the Great Orion Nebula. Now, I've tried to contact Cesar on many occasions and try and work out what the colour mixing was he used to produce this image. Now, if I put my version next to his, you can see that it might be a good effort, although I only get 6 out of 10, probably with a scribble of "see me" on it. Anyway, back to Bill. Now, Bill has a lot more and a lot better equipment that I've got to take photographs. He has an amazing observatory that he's built himself and a great many telescope setups now. He started off with just a basic Meade SCT and a DSLR camera, the same way most of us have started off our imaging, but he's now moved on to Planwave, Takahashi and TMB. Even the filters that he uses in his observatory are about £800 each. We can't compare over here. He also does a lot of his imaging remotely using the Heavens Mirror Observatory in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. I have done some remote imaging using telescopes there, but the cost can quickly spiral out of control, so I use them very rarely. However, there is no point in me trying to aspire to something I can do easily. It is actually the journey to the end that you can never reach that makes the journey worth it. My sensei, when I got my first black belt, said to me, "In my martial arts journey will only end when it is my end." A philosophy that I totally understand. Now, I've used Bill Schneider's website to look at images, analyse the images, re-look, re-analyse so many times I couldn't count, especially when I want to image nebula, for instance. His site is the first I'd go to. He often posts details of the individual frames and individual stacks, so I've even compared my subframes with his. Again, countless times I've copied his individual stacks off of his website and tried to stack them myself and process them to try and get the colours and the detail that he's been able to pull out of them. After a night of image, I don't so much now, but I used to spend hours comparing my sub-images to what he's got on his website. I found out by comparing those images over the years, many times I've been able to find the strengths and weaknesses in my own imaging rigs and setups. To conclude, a hero is someone that you aspire to, and sometimes even aspire to be like. For about 7 years, I definitely regarded Bill as one of my heroes, and even now I would still love to be able to capture some of the images that he has. I've got close sometimes, and maybe on some images, albeit a very few, I've even bettered them. He still holds the title though, and every now and then I still look up his images to give an idea of what I strive to expect. I leave you with a few of his images that I have directly tried to copy next to his. Many hundreds of hours of desire and imitation. Then a few of his images I can only dream of getting in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Bill Schneider, my hero.